All right, so I've made a few changes tonight, or actually a lot of changes. So I'm just going to go over them real quick. So the first thing I did was I created this little logger.py program, and basically this will just let us like turn on and off the different log levels. So we were having like a lot of output before, and it was making it really confusing. So this will just make it easy to turn it on and off. And it also has colored output for the different log levels, which I think is pretty cool. So that's just a little thing. The next thing I did was I wrote datamanager.py. So this lets us save and replay runs really easily. And the way that that works is it actually uses arguments. So we can use the dash replay argument to replay a run that we've already saved. And then we can use the save argument to save a run. And if we just don't have anything, it'll just run like normal and won't save anything. So I think that's pretty great, so that we don't have we don't just like build a massive big boy file like we did before, and we can save and replay whenever we want to. And that saves into the CSV directory right here. So you can see I've imported a few of the runs already. And if you're trying to import an old run, just keep in mind you want the name of the run, and then it needs to be exactly in this format. So the name of the run underscore real.csv, the name of the run underscore imag.csv. It'll save in that format, so you don't need to worry about it there, but just keep that in mind if you're trying to import it. And it'll also handle the 0 column at the beginning from the old runs, but I also fixed that bug, so it won't be like that in the future. So there's that. I also did a lot of, refactoring. So I changed up the signal processing. I changed up the signal processing. Before, it was actually doing all the signal processing in the same thread as the serial input, which was just not a good idea at all. So I gave signal processor its own thread to do all the processing in, so that's right here. And every time we get a new FFT packet, serial input will just call this function here. It'll save just the real and imaginary, so that's all that is happening on that thread. And then it'll unblock this signal processing thread. So this will run once every time it gets a new data set, and it'll do all the signal processing here in its own thread. You can also see async serial input. This is where I implemented the replay data. So this basically just takes an argument. You can say like replay false, or you set the replay and the replay file prefix is just the name, or you can say save, and it'll also handle that. And the way I do that is I just have the receive serial. This is the old method of just receiving from the Teensy, but then we also have this one, replay dataset, which will it'll replay whatever dataset you give it, and it'll also do it. The time step is calculated based on the sample rate and FFT size, so it should replay at the same speed that the Teensy would have outputted at. So yeah, that's the most of the refactoring that I did. But the last thing, which I think is definitely the coolest, is I discovered something awesome about PyQt-Graph. So if I just run, I'm going to replay a run. This is a run from last Friday when Mike and I went out. You'll see, here's the logger, the colored output there, as it's loading it in. All right, so it looks pretty crap right now, but I have this histogram over here, and this basically lets me change the color levels in real time. So before, when we were like editing those arrays, it was like so slow to see anything. Now I can just basically edit all those values in real time and see how it looks, which is super nice. So like this thing here is basically like the min-max that'll show up. And I can slide these colors around. I can also customize these colors in the code if I want to. And I can decide like how much of the data range to actually display, which is really great. And yeah, so you can see, looks pretty good. Something I noticed actually is that day that Mike and I went out, the data looks really good. Like, look at this. It's fantastic. You can see the trees here. This is like the full data set right here. This is like 0 to 100. And it's so clean. Like this is just me running. I think you can see me all the way out to like 60 meters. It's fantastic. If I just compare that to a run we did more recently, you can see that the data just looks terrible. I don't know what happened, but we definitely need to fix something. So here's the full data set again. So this should look exactly the same. It's basically the exact same thing. But obviously you can see it looks really bad no matter what I do with, clipping the data off or changing the colors. Like I cannot get it to look good. So I don't think that this is like a signal processing problem that we're having right now. I think it's definitely a hardware problem. I don't know. We're gonna have to fix it tomorrow, I guess. But yeah, just thought I should point that out. So yeah, that's what I did tonight. 2:35. Damn.